Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast, as Nottingham Forest go second in the Premier League after another away win. We just keep on winning. Two beautiful goals from Chris Wood and Morgan Gibbs-White sees the Reds extend their unbeaten run to 5 consecutive wins in the Premier League. To discuss all of that, Forest being second in the Premier League, and we keep talking about it. Can you believe it? But honestly, can you believe it? You keep looking at the table and thinking it's made up. Joined by the main man, Mark Turner, and hopefully joined by Dave Asprey in a short while, who is still making his way back from Everton from Goodison, as I did today, and the traffic was a bit of a nightmare. Mark, festive greetings, mate. Nice to see you. Hope you had a good Christmas, and I'm guessing that was even better. And an even better Christmas after seeing Forest put another 3 points under the tree today.
And now you're going to believe us. We're going to Bucharest.
Or as some of the Forest fans were singing, Mark, we're going to win the league today. Maybe getting a little bit too carried away.
Unbelievable. I mean, obviously we talked at length about how I'm a little longer in the tooth than you, Max, when it comes to Forest fandom. And so I've witnessed heady days, but my goodness, they are in the mists of time. Quite just like the game at the City Ground earlier in the week was in the mist. Forest's triumphs do seem like they were a complete lifetime ago. And so being second in the league with real prospects of going to Europe this next year, it's mad. It's absolutely fantastic. And I hope you and all the other Forest fans that have never witnessed anything like this are absolutely lapping it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just the away end atmosphere today was brilliant. We were in the lower tier, and I've been to Goodison 3 times, one not in the away end, and then the last time I was when we had it was Stuart Applegate, wasn't it? The last time we
That's
went
right.
to Everton, I was in the top tier, and the atmosphere, as you can imagine, that day wasn't great. But today it was very, very special.
Well, speaking of things actually within our lifetimes as fans, Max, there's even one thing that happens today with the victory at Goodison that's happened that hasn't even happened in my lifetime, believe it or not. Did you see that incredible stat that's making the rounds now, which has been validated? So evidently this is legit. This is the first time Forest have won at Anfield and at Goodison in the same season since 1898.
Wow. Cool.
Even Dave Asprey wasn't a season ticket holder then.
Bless him. He's on his way back from the game, so hopefully he'll be joining us in about 15 minutes. He rang me. He was slightly gutted. He wasn't going to be on for the start. And I says, Dave,
Well, we'll have to tag team. I'll have to leave when he gets here. Otherwise, you won't get a word in edgeways.
You might have to go home, Mark. You might have to leave the Garibaldi Red studio all the way in America. Right, let's kick things off, Mark. And as I say, Dave will be joining us very shortly, so we will chat throughout. We are live on Facebook, Nottingham Forest News, and YouTube as well, Garibaldi Red. So come on, what else are you doing on your Sunday evening after Forest go second in the Premier League in this weird part between Christmas and New Year? So get involved in the discussion, drop some comments, and we will be sure to read them out throughout. Mark, what did you make of the game, first of all? And obviously we'll branch out from there, but just from the away end, obviously, amazing result. And I just think the game as well, I think Forest finally almost out Sean Dyche, and Sean Dyche always seems to do a job on Forest, whoever he's managing, and he didn't do that today. And it was a difficult game. There was difficult periods in the game in terms of breaking them down, but Forest did that well, and Chris Wood gets on the score sheet with a brilliant goal. Of course, Morgan does as well. But what do you make of the game, first of all?
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know that it was a high watermark in terms of performance so far this season, but it's job done, and it's job done against a very solid and stoic Everton team who have kept other high-scoring attacks out. They blanked them in recent matches. Arsenal, most notably. Who was it they kept out in the last match? Is it Newcastle? No, not Newcastle. Who was it? This is the Forest podcast. We can't follow the other teams. But anyway, they have a very determined defense and do a really good job of kind of battening down the hatches. And so I saw a lot of speculation pre-game that this has 0-0 written all over it, because Forest, of course, have a miserly defense this year. So even though it wasn't our finest offensive performance or attacking performance, to your point, Max, they got the job done. It was another tactical masterclass from Nuno. particularly in the face, and I'm sure we're going to come on and talk about this, but in the face of some late changes that had to be made and subsequently a change in formation, which didn't have to be made because of Willy Bolly on the roster today. But nevertheless, Nuno decided to change things up, and we can get in the weeds on that here in just a moment. But I think given all of those things, Forest did a really outstanding job of executing the game plan, particularly in the face of an aerial barrage. I just thought that the way that particularly the centre of the defence held up to, one cross after another from Everton and having to deal with, their aerial threat. It was defensively, at least, it was a really impressive performance. And then we certainly made the most of the attacking opportunities that we crafted.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Mark. Spot on. We've got a lot of people watching live, so keep the comments coming. Christian says, my hope for this season was that we would be safe by March. We're safe before the turn of the year. Absolutely incredible. I see no reason why our run of form won't continue. Phil says, when will the pundits wake up to the fact that Forest are now title challengers? He also says the last 2 clean sheets against free-scoring Spurs and Brentford, who were unbeaten at home. This one from David, our work rate and tackling was superior. Alanga tracking back and taking the ball. Yeah, I agree. I thought I noticed a difference. I don't mean this is a criticism to Anthony Alanga, but he was just a bit more on it today, and he was tracking back a lot, which was maybe part of Nuno's game plan, which was obviously executed well. And executed well as well, Mark, given that Forest had to make that very late change, as you alluded to just a short while ago, about Murillo obviously pulling up with an injury in the warm-up, got into the ground quite early today, and saw what kind of didn't really know what happened, just saw him kind of pull up and limp, and then the medical staff came over to him, and then one of Nuno's assistants, and they ended up walking back, and I just thought he's not going to be in the starting 11. It then means that Ramon Sosa came into the team. It was a change of formation. Forest go with 4 at the back rather than 5 at the back. And of course, Milenkovic and Morato partner at the central defensive pair. That's for the first time this season, I think, as a start. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that shows testament, Mark, as well, that no matter what, it's a Steve Cooper phrase, this, but next man up, and Forest did well today with that.
Yeah, well, there's tons that you mentioned there that I want to pick up on. I'm going to leave some stuff for Asprey, though. So first thing I will say, though, I was having a conversation with a fellow Forest fan the other day, and I said, and people know this, I was in the camp of I didn't want Cooper fired. I felt like he needed a little bit more time. I felt like he probably would have kept Forest up. We would have survived, season and a half ago. So I wasn't a fan of seeing him go. I wasn't a fan of Nuno coming in. I just didn't feel that was a right fit for Forest. And I kind of summed it up by saying, after the Tottenham debacle, which wasn't wholly his fault, Nuno kind of limped off to Saudi. And it's hard to back a manager who seemingly doesn't back himself. Like, if you're a top quality manager, you don't, I'm sorry, you don't go to the Saudi Pro League.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but I am eating my words, and then some. Nuno has been phenomenal. I don't know what to say that hasn't been said about him and his tactical nous, his ability to develop a culture within a club, to bring players together, to really lean into the next man up mentality, to be very intentional about his squad rotation in a way that's respectful of the player, but also, doesn't really leave fans going away scratching their heads saying, oh, man, why did he play him? And why didn't he play such and such? He's been on such a good run. He does things that make sense, but also still respect the players and keep everybody involved. So, and that was the case again today, right? Bringing in Ramon Sosa. I actually really like that move, Max. I know people might be thinking, well, why didn't he bring in Jota? He feels like the next man up typically. But Sosa hasn't really had that many opportunities, and he hasn't done a whole lot wrong when he's been out there. And I thought he had another good game again today. Morata is ridiculous. That bloke just goes under the radar, and he's been phenomenal. He's barely put a foot wrong. Were it not for, if we didn't have Murillo or we didn't have Milenkovic, we wouldn't be missing Murillo or Milenkovic. Like if they didn't exist, if they were never part of Forest's history, and our centre-back pairing was one of those two and Morata, I think we'd still be a very happy fan base. Yeah. And folks keep referring to Murillo's youth, because I think he was 22, I want to say now. Morata evidently is 23, which is mad. It's like we have so many things are going right now. We have such a great team right now, and we still have the potential as well for the next 2, 3, however many seasons. Now, we know we're going to lose players are going to turn over and get sold, but the way that the recruitment is showing up this season is just, I'm so in love with Forest right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. How does my mic sound, Mark? I've had a few comments to say that my mic is very low. So in true technical difficulty live style, does it sound all right to you?
Sounds okay to me.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
We'll roll with it. Let us know in the comments if you can still hear me. All right. A few comments as well. Bobby says, we clearly have a settled squad, but where do we need to strengthen in January? We'll get on to that in a short while. Stick with us. We'll get on to that. I was actually going to mention that tonight. Mm-hmm. This one from Mark. Love the physicality that our players have shown in recent matches. Really look like they want it more than the opposition. This one, Liverpool at home on the 14th of January, will be absolutely massive. Yeah, it will be. It will be to do the double, wouldn't it? Yeah, and the title decider, 6-pointer and everything. It's funny, isn't it? We talk about 6-pointers last season in the relegation zone, me and you, Mark, many times, and now it's flipping to the other end of the table. Some good points there, and especially about Ramon Sosa coming into the starting 11. We'll stay on him, actually. Thought he did a really decent job at almost chasing everything, and I think you can't fault his work rate. I think technically he could be a little bit better on the ball. I'm sure you agree with that chance as well. In the first half, he probably should have took it, shouldn't he, towards the end.
It's hard, though, isn't it? You don't get a run of games, and you sort of parachuted in. And this wasn't even like Nuno went to him the day before and said, okay, you're going to get your chance, starting 11 tomorrow. It was, okay, 15 minutes before kickoff or whatever it is, get your boots on. Get the bib off, get your boots on.
He looked nervous in the warm-up. He looked really nervous in the warm-up, to be fair.
How could he not? Yeah, how could he not? And he's a young'un too, right? So, nerves, not getting a run of games. But I thought he did well. And I thought he looked really dangerous as well. Second half, he had that opportunity. He had 2 bites of the cherry. Jordan Pickford, I think, did a really good job with that double block. But yeah, I thought Sosa did well. I really did. And it's interesting. I saw some comments during the game online about how, and we're going to come on to this. I kind of want Dave to be here for this bit too, because it'd be good to get kind of a three-handed opinion on this one. But I saw some comments in regards to, we need to recruit wingers. We don't have strength in depth out wide. If Callum Hudson-Odoi or Alanga are injured, we're a bit shallow in that regard. I don't know that you can say that right now. With any confidence, at least, I don't know that there's a body of evidence to suggest that either Jota or Sosa, given a run of games, could contribute something similar to Callum Hudson-Odoi or Alanga. I don't think there's a dramatic drop-off. Again, we need more games to be able to determine that, but I thought Sosa did well today, and I thought Jota did well when he came on too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can never fault the work rate of those two, and I think also when you talk about out wide players for Forest, the work rate's there and the energy and the enthusiasm from Hudson-Odoi and Alanga and Jota and Sosa as we talk about. Just staying on actually, Mark, Forest changing last minute. I think you mentioned it, but when we talk about the togetherness and the tenacity in the side and the resilience to bounce back from challenges, and that there have been some challenges this season. There've not been many. There was lots more last season, but maybe it's just like another sign of the togetherness in this squad, that they almost really trust in each other. And I think what you can tell as well is the players trust in Nuno. I don't really think you can name maybe one unhappy player at Forest at the minute. Would you agree?
Oh, you put me on the spot there, and I'm trying
to. Just kind of a spur in the moment thought. I think everybody is happy. Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I cannot give you one. No.
Possibly Carlos Miguel, the backup goalkeeper, because he's not going to get a look in right now. I mean, Sal's is unbelievable. So,
But
but I don't think he'll be unhappy, because I think he's going to look at that situation and go, fair play. Like, what can I say? Things, you know what I mean? Sales has nearly put a glove wrong. So, but no, it comes back to what I said earlier. Like, culture is so important, whether you're in corporate America, whether you're down, down the high street in England, working in Next, wherever you are, right? That company culture, that being that kind of bond that develops, the camaraderie that develops with you and your workmates, your teammates, it's so critical. And it can certainly develop organically, but when you have somebody who helps with the manufacturing of that, by the way they carry themselves, the way that they communicate, the way that they respect kind of all facets of what's going on in the organization, nothing grows company culture more, or organizational culture more than that. And you can certainly see that with Nuno, the way that he interacts with Marinakis, the way he interacts with the community, the way he interacts with the fan base and the players. It's so evident that he's at the heart of that, in the same way, really, that Steve Cooper was. That was one thing as well that Steve Cooper got right as well. So we're very fortunate to have managers back to back that clearly are solid, gold-hearted. And are doing the right things to help bring on the culture within the club and obviously the team on match day. Oh God, I had another thought there. My own rambling just took me away from it.
But you know what, Mark? I was just thinking. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Well,
I'm so excited. I'm beside myself right now, mate. This is what a great season.
It's almost like when you go on Google and you search the league table and you think it's some like kind of super. You think it's some joke, don't you? You think it's like FIFA or Football Manager, Championship Manager. It's funny you mentioned the bond.
I remember it. I remember my point. Okay, very quickly. So we've seen every team so far this season now. I see a lot of shared DNA between Liverpool and Forest in one regard, which is when I was watching the game today and Forest went 1-0 up, I was like, that's it. Job's done. I had absolutely no concerns about Forest losing that game today. It's weird. And as I'm watching the team play, where I feel they have shared DNA with Liverpool is there doesn't seem to be, and this kind of ties in with what you were saying, Max, about the players being happy and everything else and the culture being great, as I'd said. There seems to be a real confidence that it doesn't really matter what happens in the match. Whatever's thrown at us from sort of play to play or goal to goal, the team just feel confident. They just feel like, you know what, stay the course, execute the plan. We're going to be all right. Well, obviously, there's been a couple of games this season where that hasn't been the case. But when you watch Liverpool and Liverpool go a goal down, or the sort of 30 minutes into the match and they've been completely dominating a game and they've been peppering the opposition goal with shots and they're still not, and the score's still 0-0, you don't see any panic. You see a complete confidence in what we're doing here. And if we can continue to do this, it's going to lead to a positive outcome. And I think Liverpool or Forest might be the only two teams I've seen this season that have that kind of outlook.
Yeah, it's a very good point. No, it's a very, honestly, it's a good point. And also, how many times, and I was saying this to someone walking up to the ground today, how many times this season have Forest got results at places that they wouldn't normally get results? And obviously that's easy to say because we're second in the Premier League and we're flying. It's been one of the best starts ever. But when you think about going, we haven't beaten Everton since we've come up to the Premier League. We've always struggled against Sean Dyche's sides. We didn't today. We've beat Brentford, who are always a bogey side. They're just to name kind of two. We beat Liverpool, obviously, for the first time in however many years. So Forest seem to be breaking so many records at the moment that it just adds to the enjoyment and to almost the disbelief in a way, because we all are in disbelief. No one really thought that we would be second, albeit Chelsea are most likely going to go and win tomorrow, which means we'll drop back down to third, but still third. Forest are going to be second. Forest are going to be in the top four by 2025, which is just mental, and you can hear the excitement in my voice. Before we get,
I love this for you as well, and the younger generation, because getting back to the Premier League obviously was significant. I know for you that was the first time you've been able to really experience Forest in the Premier League, but you're a whippersnapper, right? I'm thinking about those lads that are sort of in their 30s and 40s. They remember the last time we were in the Premier League, but outside of that first season, we didn't do a ton. Oh, excuse me, the first season upon our return after we got relegated, we didn't do a ton while we were in the Premier League previously. This iteration of Forest are breaking records. They're doing things that haven't been done for 30, 40, 50, 125 years. And it's great for all of us, but some of us have seen some of the really, the high watermark stuff from winning cups and going to Wembley year on year. But some of these records that are being broken now, like we're getting to share in that together. These truly are things that haven't happened for lifetimes, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The enjoyment is certainly there. We'll get on to Chris Wood's goal in a minute, and obviously Morgan Gibbs-White and many other key performances from the Forest players today. But we've got to start with Morato, obviously being in that back four and the first time playing with Milenkovic, and in terms of a debut, it was only his second Premier League start of the season. Yeah. His first in a back four under Nuno. He had 13 clearances, 7 aerial clearances, 1 interception, 4 tackles, 1 accurate long ball, 4 ground duels won, and 5 recoveries. You know, we love the stats on the pod, Mark, and the stats speak for themselves, and they are facts today. And Morato, I thought, had a great game. There was maybe a few times, but I often think with him, compared to Milenkovic and Murillo, he has to grow into the game, and I don't mean that in a criticism towards him. I just mean that he can look a little bit nervy at the start, and he can maybe make a few odd clearances. But I thought today he was absolutely excellent, and to say it's only his second Premier League start, slotted him well. And, he just did the job against, as you said earlier, a very aerial Everton side.
Yeah, but I don't have much to add, to be perfectly honest. I already gave him a shout out earlier in the pod. I think you summarised that beautifully. And the guy's a beast. He's an absolute beast. And you have to imagine, even though he's a little bit more experienced than Sosa, he also has butterflies as well. Like you said, only the second time he's had a start, right, in the Premier League this season. He's had limited minutes up till this point. So I think what he did today was absolutely fantastic. Very, very chuffed for him.
Yeah, and as if by magic, Dave Asprey appears. Let me just take those name tags off so we can have the full Dave Asprey in vision. Dave, have you just walked back through the door from Everton, mate, from Goodison?
I've just literally come through that door there, ravenous, desperate for sustenance. But you know what? Happy. And
this is your sustenance, Dave. Talking about Forest is your sustenance.
I probably won't eat now until May. I'll be like, like one of these, African pythons that eats like a buffalo and then doesn't have to eat for two or 3 years. Although I won't be stretching my skin. Honestly, it's just such a good feeling right now. Especially for those of us, for 2 groups of people, really. For those of us who've gone through the lean times for so long, it's great for us who remember the glory days. But for these kids that support Forest at the moment, it's just wonderful for them. They can hold their heads up high and go and have those conversations, those Premier League conversations. But what I'm seeing is a bunch of incredibly nice, humble young men all working together, working for their coach, working for their coaching staff, working for their owner, working for us as fans, and working for each other. And it's just truly, it's mind-blowing. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and we'll be back to where we were a year ago. But I would just kind of cut the tail end of what you two guys were talking about. And I guess you were discussing that Colossus Morato. And I guess you were discussing Milenkovic. These guys, I mean, I actually think Milenkovic is the signing that's changed us the most, because I think he's been everything that we needed. We don't suffer from set pieces anymore. The confidence he's instilled in those around him is enormous. And it's got to the point now where our squad is slimmer than it was last year, but the options are greater, which I think is to Nuno's credit. But most of all, they're the most humble bunch of people you'll ever find. Not one of them is singing, not one of them is singing from the rooftops. Not one of them is making big statements in social media or wherever. Forest are just going about their business, and they're letting everybody else talk about them. We were just coming back in the car. I wasn't driving, so I was able to look at my phone, and like Nuno's post match, and it was put to him again about positioning the table, and he was having none of it. He's not interested. Improve, compete, humble. These are the 3 words that sum us up at the moment, and it's It's fantastic, really. So yeah, it's a time to cherish for all of us, I think, really. You know, but
Yeah.
um,
No, spot on, mate.
I was going to say
Absolutely.
Milenkovic, I agree with you, Dave, but also Matt Sales as well. I think Milenkovic and Sales organising that defence have been ridiculous.
do you know what, Mark? I think that's absolutely right. I thought going into today, today was about 6 people. I thought it was about Pickford, Tarkowski, and Branthwaite, and then it was about Sells. I kind of thought at the time Murillo and Milenkovic, but you know, when I look at Milenkovic and I look at Murillo, I kind of and I look at Sells, I kind of think of, it does put me in mind, and this is a stretch, but it puts me in mind of Shilton, Burns, and Lloyd, right? And then you lose Murillo in the warm up, and you stick Morata in, and he's like the great Dave Needham. I saw Dave Needham. He came in, he slotted in, he did his work. Yeah. They're all coming. I mean, if you think we won that game today without Danilo, without Ryan Yates, without Murillo, without Callum, you know, we've got other lads who, you know, Ibrahim's still trying to get back to full fitness. You know, that wasn't our strongest squad today. And despite the fact that Everton have had lots and lots of possession, as did Tottenham, as did Brentford, I think we've handled all of them. It's almost like we've gone and done this job on them, and it's just so mature, and it's calm, and it's thought out, and there's a plan, and they all play to it, and they all stick to it. And you know, second in the league. I mean, it's just pinch me stuff. It's hallucinatory at times, really, but it is what it is, and league tables don't lie, you know. And if anybody thought, I mean, what I do think is, there's a fixture hoving on the horizon on January the 14th, which at the moment seems to grow in significance, not because of what Liverpool are doing, but because what we're doing. You know, so I mean, the good thing now is our lads have got 8 days to recover before Wolves, which will be difficult because they're on a bounce at the moment through Pereira, and then I guess a few of the supporting cast will get a run out against Luton, which will be, you know, they'll give as much as the first line, if you like, and then we're into Liverpool. You know, so. It's just bizarre. I can't get my head around it. But
if we end up this league season in fifth is first.
Yeah.
It is, because you expect Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea to all finish above us.
Yeah.
Has to be a given. The money they've spent, the pedigree they have, and the track record they have. So to come fifth would be to come first, and that's likely going to be good enough for a Champions League spot this year. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd rather first be first. I'd rather be first. But it is. You're right, Dave. It's dreamland stuff right now.
Do you know what, Mark? It's the context of where we've come from.
Yeah.
17th clinging on. We've reached the halfway point, and we already have 5 more points at this juncture of the season than we had at the end of last season. You know, and you kind of every game we go to now, you kind of think it can't go on, can it? And it does. And they keep adding, you know, evidence to support the case that this might end up being something, you know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, today, I thought today I'd draw written all over it. I thought it'd be quite dour, quite defensive. You know, most of the supposed cognoscenti in the media had it down from 1-1 draw. And yet to go and win it in that way, I mean, you know, Everton were given a couple of warnings early on through Woody, and then he scores a beautiful goal. And then it's almost like Forest. Clough said in the heyday that if Forest got 1-0 up with that team that they had then, they were very, very confident that they wouldn't allow anything in. And our lot now, this iteration, are getting to that point where you kind of think, if they get 1-0 up, our team's good enough to break them down. And, you know, Brentford weren't good enough to do it, supposedly invincible at home. Manchester United clearly weren't good enough to do it. They were massively inferior. Everton today, I mean, what happened today was quite clever. Everton were forced to be the team that made the run-in. And so they were forced out of being a purely defensive, dogged side. They had to come and attack us, and they didn't have enough wherewithal to do it.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that Nuno has a plan for every team he plays against.
Yeah.
And it's at the moment, it's a coaching masterclass, honestly.
Yeah. No,
welcome to the Mark Turner and Dave Asprey podcast with our guest today, Max Hayes.
I'll just keep pressing the buttons.
He's just provoking us and prodding us, Mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He made a rod for his own back. He had the two talkers on at the same episode.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a disaster of an episode, this, isn't it? I normally should try and spread you two out.
I have to apologise. Forgive me. I'm like a little lad of about
No, it's
13 or
good, Dave.
14 who's so excited about what his football club is doing and achieving, and the really good sort of vibes that we're creating. I mean, you know, and I also like the awkwardness it is causing amongst this community who mistakenly believe there are only 6 clubs in this country. They're really struggling with it. They're having to talk about, oh, we have to talk about Nottingham Forest. They're in there. What are they doing there? And I like that. It's a rebel thing from a rebel club in a rebel city, and I quite like it. So I might gabble on, but it's just the excitement and the joy and the pride I'm getting in watching my football club at the moment. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Dave, I've got to say as well, mate, you look, I'm guessing you've joined from your phone and the quality of the camera. You look like you're in 4K vision. I feel like you're at my mum and dad's house right now in front of me, Dave.
The thing is, Max, right? Obviously with and actually what there is, this one slight sadness to it really is that I can't, the way things are going at the moment, I don't get to have those conversations with my dad that I used to have about Forest, and old Razzle would be loving what they're doing, you know what I mean? And my mother would in her way as well, so that's a bit of sadness. But we obviously we sold their house, and so I got a bit of money, and I thought I'd treat myself, so I've got myself a new phone, Google Pixel 9.
Very nice. That's a free advert to Google Pixel on the Garibaldi Web podcast. Do you know what, Dave? We're terrible for doing free adverts for people. Like, you know, the branding requirements here. We did one for Waitrose and John Lewis the other week. We've done herbal tea before. The list goes on.
Max, that you haven't commented on my look. I'm developing the Nuno beard. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say,
I'm seeing there with Mark a cross between Nuno and Pat Lally. There's a bit of Pat Lally in there as well at the moment with that beard, you know what I mean? So yeah, and Pat was there today. A shout out to Pat. He was row 3 in the away section at Everton. So yeah, great days.
Very nice.
Great days.
Good words. Right, let's talk. Let's go back to talking about the game. Forest were 2 points clear off the relegation zone after 19 games last season. We're now 7 points clear of 6th. I think that really shows just how fast a year can change everything. We're going to get on to Anthony Elanga in a minute, but we've got to talk, and obviously Morgan Gibbs-White, but we've got to talk about Chris Wood's brilliant first goal, the way he took it, and obviously the link-up play with him and Anthony, and almost head tennis before he chips the keeper. I was listening to an Everton fan actually on a well-known football phone, and see, I'm not giving free shout-outs, even though I work for them. I was listening to him on a well-known football phone-in, and he actually was just giving great credit to Forest for that first goal in particular. Mark, what did you make of just that finish from Chris Wood, and if there was ever a goal or a moment that showed a striker was in form, full of confidence in front of goal, that was the moment today, the way he took that goal?
Honestly, it reminded me of what we used to do in the playground back when we were kids. The whole head tennis bit. It made me laugh. The build-up made me laugh because it was uncommon. But then the finish, completely out of nowhere. I mean, everyone was expecting Chris Wood to let that ball drop and then put his laces through it. So for him to dink the ball over T-Rex arms was incredible. But that's a striker on fire. That's a striker with bags of confidence. I've got to caught Max out. I've got to do him at least one an episode, Dave. So Dave, what are your thoughts?
T-Rex arms.
I thought that Chris Wood's work ethic today was quite outstanding, and he wasn't the only one. I thought, he was going up against Tarkowski and Branthwaite, and they were going to be physical, especially Tarkowski. He's a unit, Tarkowski. And there were times when Chris would win headers, and there were times when he didn't have a chance to get a header, but he always competed. Mm-hmm. He was competing for everything. And he, amongst the number of them, looked absolutely jiggered at the end because he put so much in. As supporters, at home or away, we invest a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of emotion in what these guys do on the field of play. And yet, when you watch a guy like Chris Wood today, you kind of think, I'm getting my money's worth. This guy's giving me everything. And to be fair, that goes for all of them. Anthony Elanga at the end, he came and took a corner down near us. and he could. He was absolutely out on his feet, but he still kept going. You know, I thought Woody was magnificent. I thought my little favourite, who I think goes under the radar, and I'm going to give him another shout out. He never stopped running. Nico Dominguez never stopped running.
I was just about to mention him.
Elliot. I mean, to be fair, it is difficult to single one out. I mean, Woody was magnificent. He took his goal beautifully. He was involved in the second goal. You know, these lads are making telling contributions, but in a way, it's a little bit unfair to single one out when it's such a collective effort. Not just over these last 5 games that we won, but over the 19 to get like 11 wins, 4 draws. You know, and maybe apart from the Arsenal game where we just didn't show anything, we've been in the others as well. You know, but yeah, Chris Wood, outstanding, and it was a beautiful finish.
Yeah, and do you know what, David? It's funny you actually mentioned collective effort there, because you look at a player like Harry Toffolo who comes on, and I think if there's ever I just in the away end with the chant for Harry Toffolo and the moments that he has with the fans and he shares, and I think we've talked about him in the past, Mark, actually, me and you, that Harry Toffolo doesn't do lots for Forest, but he's a great community guy off the pitch. He does a lot of great work in Forest, in the community, with the missions kind of there on, and also as well, whenever he comes into the side, he does a job no matter what, and he, whatever you ask from him, he always does it. He almost is just Mr. Reliable, and that shows the collective effort as well, doesn't it, Dave?
It does, and chuck Willy Bolly in with that as well. Yeah. Willy Bolly comes and does a job. Ramon Sousa today, 1 minute he's warming up with the subs, the next he's in, and Ramon had a good game, I thought. Jota Silva. Eric Moreira was on the bench today. Zach Abbott was on the bench today. These lads are all, they might not be on the field, but they're all contributing to this family effort that still, to me, was symbolised by the brawl at Chelsea. The brawl at Chelsea when Cucurella went over, Nico Williams kind of pushed him over. Chelsea all rose from their dugout to threaten Forest, and Forest went and met them head on with Willy Bolly and Chris Wood. You pick on Nico, you pick on all of us, and that was the act of a family. And since that moment at Chelsea, a game that they could have won with 10 men against £1 billion worth of investment, Forest have played like a family. And it just gives me so much that, it's almost as if one of them isn't there now. It kind of feels weird. So Moo not playing today, having to go off, no Yatesy today, we're hoping Danilo comes back soon. All of these lads belong to this collective and this collective spirit that Nuno has built. They're all humble. I mean, Harry Toffolo, last man off the field at Brentford a couple of weeks ago to his song, and last man off the field at Everton today. And yet he's a big part of the squad. Willy Bolly, I think, comes on. Willy Bolly came on against Villa at the end, and he made an unbelievable tackle in the box on John McGinn. Yeah. And he sees little things that people do. They're the small acts, you know what I mean? A lot of us supporters are so wrapped up in the flow of the game that we don't see these. But you can bet your bottom dollar Nuno and his team will be looking at all the footage and saying, Willy, thank you for that contribution. Harry, thank you for what you do. You know what I mean? Yeah. Alex Moreno, when he comes in, I mean, Alex Moreno couldn't play against Villa, but had been playing really well up to that point. Nico comes in, and Nico's on it. Now Nico's got the shirt, and it's collective, but it's competition for places, and it's friendly competition. You know what I mean? And it's the healthiest environment a football team can have, I think, at the moment.
Absolutely. Great words.
Quick things, Max, if I can jump in there. Murillo just posted something on Instagram a short while ago saying he was so happy for the victory and saying that he's happy he doesn't have a serious injury. So obviously he's not going to detail on Instagram what the injury is. Sounds like it's nothing too significant. So that's great. And then Dave mentioned Zach Abbott. And it's worth taking pause there, right? Because with Abbott's inclusion on the bench, so in the matchday squad, of course, Yates' omission because of his suspension, that continues Forest's run of having an academy player involved.
Yeah,
in a
well said, Mark.
Squad for what, 40 something years, 42, 43. It's a record, whatever it is. And Nuno mentioned that Colin Fray interviews him after the game. Nuno talked about that and said that he was well aware of that. And that was one of the reasons Zach Abbott was included. But he also took pains to say, Abbott deserved to be included. Like he's of the quality of such where he could step in and do a job. And then Nuno as well said, we need to be mindful of that as a club, making sure we have a strong academy and making sure we're not just paying lip service to this incredible record, that we do have players coming in on the bench who can then step in and contribute. So I was really glad to see Abbott involved. Well, I say involved, you know what I mean? Involved in the squad today. But Forest, we need to be mindful of that, because that has been our lifeblood for such a long time. It's that strong academy and that ability to bring those players through.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Mark. No, good words there. You've also taken the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say it. So
Aaron Bott as well. Aaron Bott has been in the squad a lot this year as well. He's another young lad who's going on that same path. You know what I mean?
Yes, we've got lots of people watching live. Thank you. So keep the comments coming. Christian says, word for Elliot Anderson. He must be a nightmare to play against. Yeah, we'll get on to him shortly. Kevin says, look so strong defending crosses this season. This comment as well from an Everton fan, which is nice. Congrats, Forest.
Wow.
Enjoy the rest of the evening. Happy New Year to you all. There's one here that says, Mark's talking sense. I quite like listening to him. I think Mark talks a lot of sense.
What?
From James. And this on David as well. I don't know Mark, but talks very nicely. I like listening to him. God, what is this? A Mark love fest?
All family members.
They're all your burner accounts.
Cousins.
You just got them set up now. Yeah. Typing away. Can you put some nice comments on about me and Dave as well? Let's talk Morgan Gibbs-White. Obviously, the second goal, but his involvement in play today. I think Morgan can have games where he really turns it on, and of course, every single game he does a job for Forest. Sometimes he'll do a very good job. Sometimes he's obviously going to have a bit of a poor one because he is human at the end of the day. But I thought today, in particular, I think Dave as well. I think we talked about it last season about his significance to the side and how vital he is. But also when Morgan Gibbs-White is on it and he finds the back of the net like he's done today, he's had many chances. He's been involved as well with the first goal. It just goes to show how crucial he is to Forest. And there was a nice moment as well before the game where Forest did the huddle and the fans were singing Morgan's name, and he kind of stopped actually as everyone walked off and almost gave the Forest fans a standing ovation as if to say thank you. He knows how much he's loved. You know, we love him so much. And today I thought he was just exceptional, Dave.
Yeah, he was. Morgan gets it. He gets what it's all about. He understands. He's got it since the day, from the day he signed, and he has been looking at the fee. He never stops thinking about the fee that was paid for him. They paid a lot of money. They've invested a lot of money in me to do certain things, and I have to be that guy. And he tries his damnedest in every game to do it. Morgan never shirks. He works hard. Sometimes he works too hard. I go back to Brighton where he was sent off, and he but it was through trying his damnedest for his team that he got sent off. The ball to Anthony against Tottenham was a thing of wonder, with a brilliant finish on the end of it. And then today he played a captain's innings. There's no Yatesy there today. Yatesy would have been captain otherwise. And Morgan dons the armband and he leads the team. And he's got other leaders in there. He's got Milenkovic, he's got Matt Sells, he's got Woody. So he's got guys to back him up. And there's a spine of leadership through that team. But I just think Morgan is constantly aware of, they need me to be that guy. I need to be the quarterback. And more often than not, he does it. There are going to be days. Morgan is never anything but 100% committed in trying what he's trying to do. And sometimes these things come off, and sometimes these things go his way, and there's going to be times when he gives the ball away, he tries to flick. But that's Morgan. That's just his natural exuberance. That's his way of expressing himself. But for all the kind of the outgoing things that Morgan does, he puts a shift in every game, and he does his defensive work. And so, he's providing that balance in midfield at the moment, between helping the guys at the back and supporting Woody and being there with Woody. I mean, it seems to me Woody and Morgan always warm up together before the matches. So I think those two have formed a real good bond. You know what I mean? So yeah, Morgan, terrific. And he got his goal. It was beautiful how he took it. That was Everton on top, and then they make a mistake and Forest said, right, we'll take this. Bump 2-0. You know what I mean? So no complaints about Morgan, and it's a pleasure to watch him play football.
Absolutely. No, great goal. And I think as well, nice to see Forest almost capitalising on, because in the Premier League, you don't get many of them, of errors, and Forest did a great job of capitalising on them, and obviously have done a great job all season. A few more comments, this one for me, and this is what happens when every player demonstrates leadership and each know exactly what role to play within the team, no egos, just playing together as united team with clear direction.
Absolutely correct. Great comment. That's a great comment, that.
This one as well from Mark Turner. He must have not changed his burner account. Love Dave's contributions. He's a font of Forest knowledge. And that Max, what a host. Did he come through the Forest Academy? Did you forget to change the burner account, Mark? Come on.
Sorry. Rookie mistake.
Where were we? We were talking about the togetherness of the team, and that brilliant comment from Ian as well. And I think that's key this season, Mark, is there is a real clear direction of how Forest are playing. And I don't mean to look back on last season and even the season before, but you often thought going away from home, what plan was it? I don't know. I just stood in away games watching Forest and thought, away ends, I should say, watching Forest and thought, maybe we're just, it feels like we're a side that's on a day out in a top six club for an FA Cup game, and we're in League One or the Championship and it's just a free hit. Whereas this time it feels so much different. You go into games away from home and you feel like you can pick up something no matter who it is. And I think we don't really fear anyone, do we, this season, Mark? I genuinely don't fear a team that Forest are playing.
Yeah, I mean, Dave alluded to the Arsenal result or the match and ultimately the result as well, which was disappointing all ends up. I think that was one instance where Nuno got it wrong and probably would admit to the fact. We sort of tried to batten down the hatches and absorb the pressure. And did
you fear Arsenal though, Mark? Or
I'm wondering if the
team
did.
Yeah,
looking from a fan perspective. I mean, yes, I did a little bit. I'd be naive to suggest I didn't. I mean, they have fantastic attackers. Did they have Odegaard? Was that before he was injured?
Yeah.
No, Odegaard played that day.
He took his part.
And he was the best in that was the best individual performance by anybody against Forest this year.
Yeah.
And he had Saka to help him. Do you know what I mean? So Odegaard was sublime that day.
Yeah. So I did. I personally feared Arsenal a little bit, and it felt like the team did on that occasion too. But I mentioned earlier, and Dave, I don't think you joined us. I said that I think some shared DNA between Liverpool and Forest is that neither team, and maybe these are the only two teams I've seen have evidence of this in the Prem this year, neither team seems to really panic. Regardless of circumstance, they have a plan, they follow the plan, they execute the plan, they trust in the plan, and more often than not, if they deliver on the plan, they come away with something positive, be that, a draw on the road or even a slew of victories, as we're seeing from both teams right now.
Clear identity, Mark. It's clear identity.
Absolutely. I think also, Max, go on, Dave.
On the subject of fearing anybody, we're the only team who've beaten the runaway league leaders. So why should we fear anybody?
Well, and that's the other thing I was going to say is I don't think we fear anybody now, Max. And by we, I mean us collectively now, team and fans, nor I think do Liverpool. But it does crack me up, Dave, every time I hear like on a phone in like that tin pot one that Max helps out on, where you hear fans say, "Oh, who's going to stop Liverpool? Is it Liverpool's to lose? They're runaway. Like, who can stop them?" I'm like,
we did.
We already did the one.
Yeah. And do you know what, Mark? It's like that is the thorn in the lion's paw of Liverpool because it still rankles with Slot. He will have mentioned it at West Ham today.
Yeah.
It winds him up. And the thing
Can you
is,
imagine if we beat them at the City ground? I think his head might explode.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the way back today. Like, the people I've been with, and we're saying, imagine if we did the double over them. What would it do for Slot? I mean, I think we maybe are part of the reason why they're playing so well because it's so upset. I mean, that day at Liverpool, frankly, they were deeply complacent. Their supporters were complacent. I mean, I always find it really, really funny that they were singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and then as soon as Callum put us 1-0 up, Liverpool had to walk alone because they were all walking home. You know what I mean? And it was utterly ridiculous. I mean, Jerry and the pacemakers were outside playing "You'll Never Walk Alone." Get back in the stadium. No, we're going now. I mean, there were like 20 odd minutes left at Anfield, they're 1-0 up against a team that is supposed to be a relegation struggler, and yet they all went home. It's almost as if can't see us beating Forest today. So, this business of theory, I think that I don't fear anybody anymore. I'm always a little bit. I always kind of respect an opposition, but I don't at the moment. I don't fear them because I don't see any. If we were complacent, I would fear the opposition. But Nuno is having none of it. He's having nobody getting ahead of themselves. I think the greatest of them all, be looking down. He'd be really proud. He'd be proud of what Nuno's doing. He would concur with it. I think Clough would love Sells, Morato, Murillo, and Milenkovic like you wouldn't believe. He would love, because he always said good sides were built on clean sheets. He said, somebody said to him once, he said, we signed Shilton and we took off. And this bloke said to him, so Shilton won the league. And Cloughy went, him and the back four, because all good sides are built on clean sheets. And when I watch Milenkovic, I think of Lloyd. When I watch Murillo, slightly differently, he's like the Kenny Burns to Milenkovic's Larry Lloyd. And then Morato comes in today, and he's like Dave Mead. Yeah. And I mean, talking about Morato and those goals we scored today, both of them came from a foot in by Morato stopping an Everton attack. Both of them, So again, we're blessed at the moment with good players, and while we're this blessed, we can go anywhere. I mean, Wolves is going to be difficult because they're getting manager bounce. But then again, they haven't got Cunha because he ripped the guy's specs off the other week stupidly, so he's not about. So we can go and win at Molineux, and then Luton, we can have a busman's holiday. You know what I mean? That'll be enjoyable. So some of the other lads will get a run out, which would be good for them. Give them a sighter, and then it's Liverpool, and they've got to come to us, and all the pressure's on them because we've already done them this year. So it's a great place to be, and I'm still struggling to get my head around where we are and how we're playing. But hey, it's great.
It is, yeah. No, lovely, Dave. Great words. Right, we'll summarise because we've done quite a bit, and I'm worried we'll be going on for. I mean, we could talk about this forever.
I'm hungry, Max. I'm starving.
and you're hungry. Sorry, mate. What time is it? Jeez, it's nearly 9:45. Dave, you haven't eaten. So I had pizza when I got back.
The January transfer window, Max, because it's looming.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I was kind of going to summarise with a bit of a look, almost a look ahead. And Forest have got a bit of time off now to kind of rest and recuperate, as Nuno was talking about to Colin Fray in his post-match interview. I mean, Mark, there was a comment earlier. I'll try and get it back up about kind of January, and we've talked about January and who could come to Forest, and obviously we're not going to go and sign 10 or 20, 30 signings, but there might be a few key additions, and it's going to be a hell of a club to move to, and in terms of the attractiveness, if you're a player currently looking now for a move. Do Forest need player or players, and also, Mark, how important are the next few weeks, almost the next week off before the game against Liverpool, Luton?
Well, yeah, I think the next couple of weeks.
And obviously Wolves, sorry.
Yeah, of course, yeah. The next couple of weeks are key. I mean, get some, obviously with Murillo being injured now, and as Dave mentioned, Danilo close, we hope, to coming back, so giving him that little bit of additional time as well. Hopefully he'll be in the mix then for that next stretch of games. It's difficult when you look at the January transfer window. I'm straying into Life of Brian here. The transfer window, the biggest thing in all of woe. Max is like, what?
Yeah,
right over his head. Yeah. Anyway, it's difficult because when you look at the transfer window, on the one hand, you're looking at, okay, where can we bolster, right? Where can we give ourselves additional depth? Where are we maybe a little short? But you also sort of think about, okay, what if we had injuries? But it's difficult because you can't really say, well, okay, what if Matt Sales got injured? Well, touch wood, Matt Sales doesn't get injured. And he doesn't get injured. We don't need another goalkeeper on the books right now. So it's a real balancing act. But clearly we need a little bit more depth up top to cover Chris Wood. Taiwo has been coming on and doing a better job in the last.
Yeah, agreed.
But it would be nice to have a little additional cover. And then beyond that, it's sort of difficult. I mean, we're doubled up in the wing positions. When Danilo comes back and Sangare comes back, I don't know how far Sangare is away, but Danilo certainly looks close. We have great cover in the middle of the park with Morgan Gibbs-White, with Anderson, with Yates, with Dominguez, and with Danilo. Centre back, full backs again were doubled up. Centre back might be the only position where we might look to bring in another body, only because Omobamidele seems to be out of favour. And I don't really know, Dave, Max, be interested to get your take on this, if he's really a Premier League quality centre back. Morata clearly is. So we've got 3 in rotation there, no doubt. Bolly's great, but he's, long in the tooth. But maybe he's sufficient cover. I don't know. But certainly covering up top. I mean, I think we'd all agree on that, right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think everything Mark says is correct there. I don't think there'll be many because the balance at the moment is really lovely. It ain't broke, so it don't need fixing. And I don't think they want to bring too many bodies in to kind of create a turbulence within it. It doesn't. It's a tweak. I agree. Another striker would be great. I mean, I've been looking on at Omar Marmoush all season and thinking, yeah, he'd be great. But I think we may have missed the boat with him because his value will have gone up because he's the leading scorer in the Bundesliga now for Frankfurt. But then by the same token, and this is the point you make, Max, is phenomenal, is we are a really attractive proposition now because we are, who knows, a Champions League contender. I mean, I can't believe I'm actually saying these things, or at least European football. So people will look, for many, many years, we were the most unattractive prospect you could get. Nobody wanted to come to Nottingham Forest. And people are looking now going, blimey, they're going places. And that looks like a nice little project to be part of. So I think a good striker to come along. I actually think I'm really glad Mark mentioned Taiwo because I think Taiwo has been coming on and looking a little bit more back to his old self. He comes on, he's been a handful. When he's come on, he's looked quite sharp. I think he's lost a bit. He looks to me like he's lost a bit of weight. Taiwo does. So I've no problem with Taiwo. Jota Silva comes off the bench. He does a good job. Ramon had a really good game today. I thought, but another striker, if you like, a more sort of, and there aren't many about, a fox in the box finisher, I think is the sort of guy that they go for, But maybe, Andy Omobamidele, I think, has the potential to be a Premier League player. It's a matter of how patient he is or how far away from the pecking order Nuno and his guys think he is. I heard somebody saying that Andy Omobamidele is likely to go on loan to a Championship side, maybe Leeds or something like that, which would be good for him. So, we spent so long, or Nuno, sorry, spent so long trimming down what he always said was a bloated squad. So they're not going to want to re-bloat it, if you like. It's a bad word, that, but you know what I'm saying? So I think a striker definitely, maybe another centre-half. I don't know. If Andy goes out the door on loan, maybe another one to come in who they think is more Prem-ready than he is. But I'm struggling then to think of where we need to strengthen because we've got options in midfield. I mean, Elliott, I think Elliott is phenomenal. He can do the attacking stuff. He can do the defending stuff. Yeah. And more so, and he has the best facial expression of any footballer in this division because he is the ultimate poker face. Nobody knows what Elliot Anderson's thinking. I just love the way he plays. He'll go. He went up against Iliman and Jay today in a battle near us where we sort of never gave a damn. He wins. He makes tackles like a holding midfielder. He then drives the play forward like an attacking midfielder. He can do it all, that kid. And while I think Milenkovic is the best signing that any club in this country has made this year, Elliot Anderson isn't far behind. So, again, it's that kind of fewer bodies but greater depth and greater options. And it's just a matter now of like Nuno and the guys behind the scenes, Mr. Marinakis and whoever, working out like there'll be an optimal figure of what they want. I don't think it'd be too many. It might be 2 or 3 at most. I don't think it'd be any more than that because it's going well. It's not gone this well for nearly 30 years. So, don't disturb the equilibrium too much, I think. But yeah, definitely a striker.
Yeah, absolutely. We will discuss all of the January plans as well when January comes about. There's so much we can discuss in the next few weeks, which we'll do and we'll get on to. There'll be plenty more podcasts coming your way in 2025. which is a bit scary to say. 2024 ends in just a couple of days. So madness and Forest, well, it's been a brilliant year as we look back. Do you know, I'm just thinking, Dave, and Mark, as you mentioned some players there and in the past and recruitment, we've come a long way since players like Rafik Jabor and Jamal Abdul and who else? There's been some
Rafa Mir.
Oh God, yeah.
Kareem Ansari-Fard.
You forget about these, yeah. Try to think of
Jesse Lingard. Remember
tried
him?
to, Max.
Yeah, I try Cole Jenkinson. Well, he was at the club for way too long. Anyway, we just turned this into a slagging. Harry Arter. No, I'm joking. We mention him enough. He's had so many free shout-outs on this podcast. He could get a move to another football club, which takes some doing. Right. We'll see you all very soon. Like I say, this will be our last podcast of the new year. I hope not. Because I don't have a job any longer. The last podcast of 2024. Yeah, it'll be all right on the night. You can tell
this is live. It's like if this is a live day. We can edit after.
No, we've had a lot of viewers. We've had a lot of viewers. Do you know what? It's funny, isn't it? Because I'd written I'd kind of planned some points and podcast talking points, and they've all just been thrown out the window. But it's good because you and Dave, yeah, exactly, free form, yeah. Brilliant. It's what makes the podcast top quality. So thank you both as ever. We really appreciate it. Mark, thanks for all your help on the podcast this year, mate. Thanks for stepping in. Hope the beard stays for 2025. It looks all right, mate. Just might need to put a bit of dye in it, maybe.
Wait till you see the comments in YouTube after this, Max.
Yes.
And I'm 61 in March. I'm dreading to think what he's going to say about me.
No, Dave, I can't say it. I can't say anything about you. But do you know what? I'm not going to say anything about you. But my dad has just texted me, so he's clearly watching this. But he's texted me and put, "I fear ever being taken hostage and chained to a radiator for 6 months with Dave."
I'd love it. He'd love it. He'd be at the end of it, to quote a certain person who came a cropper on Thursday. Is he not entertained?
Yes.
I can see it now. Now, that's 1981. Let me talk to you about the Forest team at 1982.
Anyway, Ian Wallace.
Game number 3, hooray.
Magic. We're second in the league, lads.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, just cherish that thought. Second in the league, 5 wins on the bounce. It's astonishing. Unbelievable.
Amazing. Absolutely. Both, thank you very much for all your help in 2024. It's been excellent. Pleasure. Sharing many good moments about Forest with you both, and we've come a long way since those awful relegation chats as well last season. Thanks for everyone tuning in and watching live. We really appreciate the comments and all the interaction. Sorry if we didn't get to your comments. Sorry if we didn't cover all the points. There's so much, but we'll do more in the next couple of days and, of course, into the new year. Happy New Year. Spend it with your family. Have a wonderful one, whatever you are up to, and enjoy it. Thanks for all your support on the podcast. Give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube, as always. And, of course, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm trying to move a mouse to try and click the outro. There we go. I've nearly got it. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for everything. Forest are second in the Premier League. Let that sink in. It is our longest win streak in terms of Forest in the top flight since 1995. Forest are flying, and long may it continue into 2025. From all of us, come on, you Reds.